All right, let me ask you something. Ever had that feeling? You finish an absolutely brilliant book, your mind is just buzzing with ideas, you've highlighted what, like a dozen passages, and then boom, 2 weeks later, you can barely remember the key points. It's like all that incredible insight just leaked away. It's a super frustrating and really common problem, right? Well, what if we could actually change that? What if we could transform your bookshelf from just, a static collection of books into a dynamic, living library, a place where ideas are constantly connecting and your knowledge doesn't just sit there. It actually grows like exponentially over time. Okay, so how do we actually do this? Now, I know what you're thinking. You see a diagram like this, and you hear phrases like sophisticated systems architecture or reading intelligence layer, and it looks, well, pretty complex. But trust me, don't let that scare you off. The core idea behind all this is actually super simple and honestly really elegant. We're going to break it all down together, step by step. So, where do we even begin building this knowledge engine? Well, like any good structure, it all starts with a solid foundation. Which brings us to part one, mapping your books. The whole system basically breaks down into two main parts. First, you've got the vertical layer. Think of this as going deep, like really deep, into one single book. Then you have the horizontal layer. This is all about going wide, weaving this incredible web of connections between all your books. We're going to start with the vertical. So, what's the point of this vertical layer? Well, it's all about changing how we see a book. Instead of just this giant block of text, the goal is to transform it into a totally structured, navigable environment. It's kind of like creating a super detailed, high-resolution GPS map, but for the book's ideas. And this map has two parts. First, you've got what's called the author's blueprint. This is the static part. It's where we map the book's original structure, the chapters, the sections, right down to the key arguments the author is making. But then, layered right on top of that, is the dynamic part, your insights. This is where you come in, attaching your own notes, your questions, your mind maps, making that blueprint a living document that evolves as you think. Okay, so we've mapped a single book. That's already a huge step, right? But the real power, the place where knowledge starts to compound, is when we zoom out. So let's move on to part two and see where the magic really starts, connecting the dots. Seriously, this is where it all starts to click. We've gone deep on individual books, right? Now it's time to build the highways between them. This is the moment our living library truly comes alive and the books actually start talking to each other. And this simple drawing really gets to the heart of it. Remember that super complicated diagram from the beginning? Well, this shows you what's really going on. These connections between books, they're not random. They are intelligently woven together based on what you actually care about. Your goals, your questions, your projects. So what do these connections actually look like? Well, the system creates three really powerful types. First up, you've got concept pages. These automatically link similar ideas from totally different books. Think deliberate practice from one book connecting to deep work in another. Then there are synthesis pages. These are even cooler. They highlight where different authors agree, disagree, or build on each other's ideas. And finally, my favorite, question pages, which let you use your entire library like a team of expert consultants to help you answer your most important questions. This whole system sounds incredibly powerful, right? Almost magical. But all this fancy automation is missing one thing, the single most critical component, the secret ingredient, and that's you. Let's get into part three. You are the librarian. And this brings up a huge question, probably the most important one. I mean, with potentially thousands of links being suggested, how on earth does the system know which connections are actually insightful and which ones are just, noise? The answer is what makes this whole idea so powerful. The system doesn't decide anything. It learns from you. You're not just a passive user clicking around, no way. You are the active director. Your interests, your curiosity, your goals. That's the engine that drives this entire thing. So how does it do that? It actually builds a reader profile based on how you interact with it. It starts to learn what kind of reader you are. Are you a decision maker who's always hunting for practical strategies? Or maybe you're more of a curious generalist, so it knows to surface those unexpected aha connections between different fields. The whole point is the system adapts to you. And here's the crucial part. You are always in control. Think of it like a quality control workflow. The system might suggest a link, and that starts as a candidate. If more evidence pops up from other books, it might get promoted to a draft. But, and this is key, it only becomes a permanent, validated piece of knowledge when you, the head librarian, give it that final human stamp of approval. You always have the last word. So let's bring this all together. The big takeaway here is that this is about so much more than just taking better notes. It's a fundamental shift in how we interact with what we read. This is about building your very own personal knowledge engine. There's this one line from the source material that just captures the whole philosophy perfectly. The reader curates while the system produces. It's a partnership, right? The system does the heavy lifting, finding the connections, producing the links, but you provide the most important part, the human wisdom, the curation, the direction. And that brings us right back to where we started. The old way, that leaky bucket we talked about, that's reading as just passive consumption. Ideas get trapped in silos, one book at a time. But this new way? This is reading as active knowledge creation. You're not just consuming, you're building an asset, a personal knowledge base that doesn't leak but actually compounds and becomes more valuable the more you feed it. So I want to leave you with one final big thought. By creating a system that maps, connects, and synthesizes everything based on our own unique interests, we're going way beyond just trying to remember stuff. We're creating new insights. So you have to wonder, is this kind of human-AI partnership the future of how we truly learn from everything we read?